Okay, so the dark web is also referred to as the dark net. It is an encrypted portion of the internet, something that we don't really see in everyday real life. It's not even indexed by your search engines. You cannot just go and search for it. It's sometimes mentioned that dark web is a place where all the criminals, they participate in their discussions, and a lot of things that we hear that are negative about the dark web. Well, the dark web is a very interesting place where you can actually share information with full privacy without worrying about who's watching over your shoulder. So there is a dark web and there is a deep web. Now, most of the time, there's a confusion with people that dark web and the deep web is the same thing. Well, dark web is very different. The only thing that is common with them is dark web is part of the deep web, and neither can be found in the in a search. And you cannot just go Google the dark web or the deep web. You cannot get into it. There's a difference in how you can access the dark web and the deep web. The dark web needs special software with a decryption key, as well as access and the rights and the knowledge to be able to find the content. It's not very easy to find content on the dark web. Well, if you imagine that there's the entire web, like an iceberg, the top surface 4% is what you access. That is the World Wide Web. The 90% is the deep web, which is encrypted information that is not searchable anywhere. And the 6% bottom is the dark web that requires special software and configuration. You need tools to access it. So let me start by telling you what the deep web is. Now, deep web is something that cannot be searched by a search engine, yes, but a deep web, the data in the deep web is accessed by you every day. Stuff like your Gmail. You cannot actually go to Google and search in your Gmail directly. Your Gmail is part of the deep web. All those websites, those social websites, those databases, the online banking, the forums, all the content where you need to pay, YouTube, you can actually imagine this, that this is the deep web. This is all the data that is stored on all those servers that you can't see, all those cloud servers, those physical servers. This could be medical records, fee-based content, membership websites, confidential corporate web pages. These are just a few examples of what you can access on the deep web. Well, how's the dark web accessed? Now, that's a core question. Now, the dark web cannot be accessed through your typical browsers. It can be accessed only through a very specialized browser, like a browser called Tor. Tor is the short for the onion router. What it does is basically it uses something called proxy servers. It will bounce your internet all over the world, and you cannot really track it. It bounces. Suppose you were searching the dark web from India, it would bounce your searches all over the world to multiple countries, and it's very difficult to track where the initial search started. So this is the software that you can use for that. Well, who uses the dark web? The dark web is a channel for anonymous communication. Of course, it's attractive to hackers, criminals, people looking for guns, drugs, money laundering, identity theft. None of us. Lawyers, yes, they access the dark web for confidential information. Government agencies access it. Journalists access it for their, fact-finding missions. Businesses do use the dark web. Very selective businesses do it, and individuals would also use the dark web. Well, the question now is the dark web illegal? Now, the dark web can be a platform for illegal activity, and there are also several legitimate companies who have presence on the dark web, and users which may have reasons, like I said. So, one ethical use of the dark web could be law enforcement and threat intelligence. So, FBI, CBI, RAW, they could use the dark web to access data and find criminals, and all those communications or terrorist communications, those can be found on the dark web. It also has information that cannot be found anywhere in the internet: banned books, news articles, discussion forums which are not really what you say street legal. And a lot of the times, people on the dark web who are sharing these information, these law enforcement agencies have actually in the last few years caught them, arrested them, closed them. The older people in the forum would have heard of something called Napster, which is a free music sharing service. Something like that on the dark web would be very, very valuable, where you can get all that free music without buying it. Well, is the dark web dangerous? That's a good question. Accessing it is a high risk activity, both for individuals and enterprises. There are a lot of dangers. You could get viruses while accessing it, ransomware, keyloggers. Your data could be stolen, credentials could be stolen, you could be hacked. So it's not a very safe place to be. Well, there are legitimate uses. So dark web usually conjures up this ominous and sinister image. While the dark web is home to questionable deals happening, it also has a lot of legitimate uses. For example, circumventing government censorship. Now, for example, when the COVID virus hit, people in Wuhan wanted to communicate with the world. They could not do it through the direct channels, obviously, and they actually went through the dark web to get this news out to people. People can also access anonymous email services. There is for example, there's an email service called Proton Mail, which is untrackable, which you can access through this Tor browser. Anonymous collaboration with journalists. So whistleblowers contacting journalists use the dark web. You can visit news outlets which are blocked, which are not allowed to be accessed in certain countries. You can contact the CIA, the RAW, the FBI anonymously, and nobody will ever know that you were a whistleblower. You can access academic research. There are articles which are banned, which are not allowed to be visible in countries. You can access those. You can use ad-free search engines. For example, on the Tor browser, there is a search engine called DuckDuckGo. You may have heard of it before. It is a private engine which does not track any of your information. So people who are very wary of getting ads and their information being leaked use these search engines. For securing cryptocurrency wallets, now cryptocurrency is a very public thing because every time you buy or sell cryptocurrency, it is tracked. If you go through the dark web, these trackings don't happen. You can actually do that. Accessing social media for people who don't have access to social media in certain countries, you can go through the dark web and do it. And to find niche content, yes, you can actually, dark web is a place where you can actually look for very niche content, which is not available on the general web. And participating in forums and chat boards, which are of topics that are not allowed to be on the web. Well, there are also advantages to the dark web. There is the main advantage is privacy, and you can freely express your views. People can access the dark web for privacy, of course, but it also helps terrorists to access the dark web and plan terrorist activities. A lot of employers track their employees and their posts on social media. Now, if the employee was on the dark web, the employer could not do it. So that's one more advantage that some people use. Sometimes you can't have honest communication for fear of being, again, tracked, for fear of being, found out that you were doing something against the government or something. You could have views about anything and you could share that on the dark web. So no censorship. It's good for undercover police communications where the police can actually communicate with each other for tracking these terrorist activities. It is obviously resistant to surveillance. There is no way to track who is on the dark web, what is happening on the dark web, what are those discussions that are happening. So those are the advantages. And obviously there are disadvantages. Now, when there is power, it will get abused. It will get used by criminal elements. It is possible to use the dark web to violate privacy and steal data. Data theft is a big part of the dark web. All those people who wonder where my credit card data went, where that information went, how was my bank account emptied? Well, the dark web is a source of that. Of course, it's untraceable. So criminal activities do happen. Illegal trading of guns, pornography, banned substances, they all happen on the dark web. Thank you for giving me the chance for discovering for myself the details of the dark web. Of course, the data here, the text, the information is not mine. The photos are courtesy of respective owners. This is shared only for learning purposes. Do not use the dark web. It is not a safe place to be. And these are the places where I got this information, which I was able to share with you.